Come on, let's go, crown steady. All I wait, memory, in the spine. The ancestors, which ancestors are whispering, No flex, just recognition. Power seeks power, sits down. There's no competition here, only life. All of the mass will fall. Truth breathes, strength multiplies. Praise be, Ashe, strengthen your posture, your rising day. Well, Ashe. Yaho, amen. Hey, how are you guys doing? I am back after a few weeks of being off, doing some spiritual work for some folks and for myself, and doing the things that I need to do in this mundane life. Also, what I need to do in this spiritual life. So, we're going back and talking about the types of ancestral work, as I explained before in my book, Shadow Work, Ancestral Trauma, Volume 2, which is a volume of shadow work that I had compiled a few years ago. I wanted to get out here, as Spirit is guiding me to get out here and speak to everybody, and so that I give you a little bit of the recipe or the answers to the test, so that you can grow, and that you know how to tap in spiritually, to know who your ancestors are, to know who you are, and to be able to ride your bike successfully. I am going to be today talking about the shadows of light, memory, transformation, silence, migration, reconciliation, which is very important, forgiveness, which is very important, courage, creativity, spiritual calling, and your ancestors of shadow. And I am thinking I am actually going to, which I don't have up here on the screen, but I do want to talk about the ancestors of justice, which we have spoke about sitting in the justice seat. Okay, and that is very important, that you learn how to also sit in the seat of justice and not the seat of judgment when you are doing spiritual work of any kind, for yourself, for someone else, ancestral work. Okay, so let's go on and get on into it. Okay, we are going to learn more about our ancestors, our ancestors field. If you haven't watched the videos that I did, the first 4 videos on ancestral shadow work, go back and watch that. There's so many good points and nuggets in ancestral part 4. You could see some activity with my ancestors happening. The lights went out. You see a shadow come across the screen. It is phenomenal. So go ahead and back there and watch that. People learn the names of different ancestors. Okay, but that's where they stop. Okay, and I talked about that in the last video. They never learn the function. Okay, they never learn the title. Okay, all right, or they'll learn the title but never understand the assignments, okay, of those ancestors. Okay, knowing a name without understanding a role is like having a key and not knowing which door needs to be opened. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had your keys and you didn't know which one, or you picked the wrong one? It didn't fit correctly, right? It wouldn't turn, or it fit but it wouldn't turn. Okay, so that's what this is like. Okay, the ancestral realm is not a random space. It's not a random gathering of spirits. Okay, it operates more like a living government of memory, of wisdom, of experience, of consequence, and of purpose. Okay, every ancestor, okay, stream, okay, carries a particular medicine, key, ticket, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. It could be trauma, it could be pain, it could be anything, but what they carry is most important. Okay, every ancestor stream carries a lesson, and every ancestor stream carries also a responsibility. So that's why Spirit has had me out here teaching the way that I have been teaching to each and every one of you guys, so that you guys can go down your own ancestral rabbit hole. Okay, and understand, like I told you before, it's not that you just work with your ancestors. There's ancestors of the land. There's ancestors of your spiritual careers, ancestors of philosophy, all different kind of ancestor archetypes that you can work with. It doesn't necessarily need to be your bloodline relatives, those that are connected through your lineage, okay? But those that have the same desire or the same calling, okay? Those that are in the same field. Like you have a stream of doctors, right? One doctor finishes school, goes to work with another stream of doctors inside of a hospital or a building or a clinic. That's what working with ancestral is, your ancestors is like. Okay, many people just want to stay stuck on working with those that were connected to their family line, but baby, no, there's all kind of ancestors and spiritual elders and elect that have passed on, that desire to work with humanity, okay, and who have desire to work with you. All right, so don't close yourself off to just working with those you know or those you want to know through your ancestral line. That is important, yes, but there are a plethora of different ancestors that have passed on and realize we all are one. We're under the all. We all are the all, okay? All right, so the first ancestor path I want to speak about is the ancestors of shadow, okay? Because if you don't understand them, you'll never understand yourself. We understand the yin and yang, the dark and the light, and how the light is the dark and the dark is the light, right? And vice versa, okay? Everybody wants to talk about the light, but few people want to sit down and have to be honest and have an honest conversation about the shadow, okay? There is nothing wrong with the darkness, okay? The world has made it wrong. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? We need both polarities to be able to work in our assignment, to walk through our journey, okay, to access the things that we need to access spiritually, okay? We need the darkness. The darkness isn't bad, okay? The light isn't bad. You understand what I'm saying? The ancestors of shadow are the keepers of everything a family has buried in this construct, okay? All right? So everything that the family has buried, those secrets, that they've buried those stories, those lies, okay? And every family has a basement. Okay, and I talk about this in my book. Okay, in my book I talk about the different rooms, the rooms that we kept locked and keep shut, and there's cobwebs, and we just open the door to throw some more stuff in there. Okay, and things is out of. You ever see the show Hoarders? You understand what I'm saying? We turned the lights off and we closed the blinds of the house, but there's different rooms that we need to walk in. We need to. I remember my cousin son had passed, and it's been about a year now. She has a room, a spiritual room, and a sacred room, and she was like, well, there's boxes. I said, you need to go in there and you need to uncover. That's part of your healing. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so every family has a basement, okay, or those rooms, okay? Even in maybe your grandmother's or your auntie's house, they had a closet that nobody was supposed to touch. I had one of those. My great grandfather, he had a closet, but I went in there and I found some interesting things, okay, or a box that nobody is supposed to be open. That room, everybody walks past, but nobody discusses, okay? All right, you're curious about the curiosities that nobody discusses, those things you see with your spiritual eyes but nobody wants to talk about, okay? The ancestor of shadows guards the place where the pain has been stored, where the trauma, where the secrets, okay? All right, just say for instance that child nobody protected, that may have been you, that childhood trauma, okay? The woman nobody believed, the man nobody understood, okay? The addiction, the abuse, okay, that wasn't talked about or acknowledged, okay? The talents that people have tried to keep down, put their foot on, but not nurture them, okay? Or those dreams of the family, the family had, okay? Those things that were abandoned by the family. Does shadow ancestors stand over those very stories, okay? And they are waiting for somebody like you brave enough to uncover them, okay? Their lesson is not about darkness. Their lesson is truth in this construct, okay? So their lesson is for you to find the light through the darkness, to come to the truth, okay, of what has been buried, okay, in this construct, okay? Because what is hidden seems to control you. There's things, I talked to my aunt today and we was talking about river dancing, okay? So we realized we have an Irish ancestor who signed the Declaration of Independence, and I brought up that, I said, well, that's weird because I could really talk about to her, as expanded as I talk to you guys, so I just say little things, but I said, I be trying to river dance all the time. And she said, oh my gosh, she said, me and aunt so-and-so, one of my great aunts, she said, we would always talk about river dancing and this and the other. I said, isn't it funny how we're drawn to things that we don't know of and we wonder why, okay? All right? Okay, it's because those things are within us, okay? And sometimes those things that are in us are not good for us, and they're bad for us, and they try to control us. And we continue to see the same cycles no matter what you do, okay? Where you go, like I talked about in the last video, you have children that are adopted. We'll get to talk about adopted ancestors as well in another video, but children that are adopted, they don't know their ancestors. So now another family who adopted this child is dealing with something that they don't know that's showing up, but that comes from something that was in their bloodline, okay? What is never revealed can never be healed. Always understand that, okay? And you may not be able to have the conversation with the living loved ones about it, okay? But the greatest thing is that we can go in the spirit realm, okay, and learn and be taught and healed, okay? The ancestors of shadows teach us how to sit with the uncomfortable truths without wanting to run or hide from it. We have to face it, okay? They teach you how to look at the family history without ever becoming bitter about it, because there's a root cause to everything, all right? And we can't, it hasn't hurt, and yeah, so-and-so may have did it, but we have to walk in this place of love, okay? Of justice, not judgment, okay? They also teach you how to face things that you inherited, okay? Without making them your identity. And a lot of us have been through some things. Some of the things we've been through became our identities. It became how we look at the world, right? Okay? The shadow ancestors are the ancestors, the teachers of self-awareness as well, okay? They teach you how to get down to the nit-grits of who you are. They are not evil ancestors, let me be clear, okay? Right now, shadow does not automatically, like I said, mean darkness in the sense of wickedness, okay? Shadow means the hidden, okay? The thing that needs to be uncovered. Okay, the thing that is enclosed that needs to be let free. You understand what I'm saying? It means with the things that has not been acknowledged. You understand what I'm saying? Or resolved. Okay, or like I said, what nobody wants to discuss, swept underneath the rug. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are the ancestors connected to the family secrets, hidden wounds, like I said, addictions, betrayals, abandonment, shame, grief, silence, generational pain. They operate through patterns, okay? They don't usually show up in dreams carrying, your signs, like, hey, I'm the ancestor of shadow, you know what I mean? They don't do all of that, okay? They show up in repetition, okay? In the same relationship patterns, okay? Like some people, I'm dealing with somebody right now, and so why do I always choose the wrong type of man, okay? But that's a pattern. Okay, and the ancestors trying to show you something, so I'm helping her and helped her, move through that. Okay, so they show up in patterns like the same fear, emotional wounds, destructive choices. Okay, the same cycles that keep appearing generation. Like I said, why Bobby? Bobby had never met Grandpa Joe. You know what I mean? But now he got the same addiction. We ain't seen this addiction. We haven't seen this behavior in a while. Okay, and this is why it's important to work with him. Okay, because like I said, it will begin to control you. Okay, so the shadow ancestors is exposure in this construct, and it's not wickedness. It is about awareness. Okay, all right. And when we sit in the justice seat of justice, this justice position with working with the shadow ancestors, it is now us learning how to refuse to blame the ancestors. Okay, while also saying this stops here. I'm not going to repeat this. This is not going to be repeated. I don't judge you. That was your life. That was your journey. That's what you had to go through. Because everything somebody goes through is their testimony. Okay? We don't know why. I know that I've been seeing on a lot of people harming young children, and I'm like, oh, please just give me the babies. I'll keep the babies. Don't kill your baby. Please just sit at the Duchess. You feel what I'm saying? That's their journey. You know what I mean? Some people, when I speak, like, how can you have compassion for this, such a heinous crime it is, but you don't know their story. You feel what I'm saying? And me being one that's able to channel and do all kinds of stuff, I can speak and listen and hear. I like to know people's stories. I'm not like history buff for one. Okay? All right? So you refuse to repeat the pattern. You stand up and say, this ends here. This not with me. No, sir, no, ma'am. Okay? All right? So that's what the justice position looks like when you're dealing with the ancestral shadows, ancestors of shadow, and they are here to reveal to you. Okay, your shadow, that thing you don't want to touch, and it may not be something that you try to cover up, but that dip within your spirit, within your soul, within your life, that needs to be removed or transformed, right, or alchemized. Okay, now I want to talk about the shadow. We talked about the shadow. Now I want to talk about the ancestors of lights. Okay, that's Light. Okay, these are the ancestors connected to wisdom, integrity, compassion, truth, service, and spiritual maturity. And I told you later on we're going to talk about the spiritual ancestors. Okay, spiritual core ancestor. Okay, every bloodline has people who have become examples, right? Okay, people who remain kind to them even when life threw them all kinds of hell and cruelty, and they were the black sheep, right? Okay, a lot of disaster. Okay, and these people, the ancestors of light, are the ones who remain honest. Okay, they didn't walk in dishonesty. Even though it was easier for them to do it, they didn't walk in it. Okay, these are the people who carried wisdom with them, even in the most difficult of situations. Okay, it's been thundering a lot here, so you might hear some coming. Okay, all right, and so don't mind. That's why I came outside to enjoy it, because I've been doing a lot of work, which caused me to be inside a lot of the time this week. So I'm out here enjoying all of it, honey. I even got a little fan. Okay, when I get too sweaty, because it is hot here in Georgia. Okay, everybody wants to talk about the ancestors, the light ancestors, because they think they might get a blessing or some sign. You know what I mean? You think it means all sunshine and rainbows. Okay, all right. Everybody wants to walk in the light. You hear everybody, oh, love and light and blessings, right? Okay, but the light ancestors, let me tell you, okay, so like I said, everything has its yin and its yang, okay, are the ancestors that are some of the strictest teachers you will ever meet. You think dealing with your shadow, just the uncovering of it and the unveiling of the pain and the trauma and the hurt and secret stories and patterns is the thing? No ma'am, no Sam. Okay, let me tell you, this space, dealing with your ancestors of lights, when they shine in that light that reveals, that light that exposes, that light that uncovers, okay? Okay, because they live by a certain rule of principles, okay? They had standards, okay? And they had morals, okay? So to say they take no shit. And like I said, even when life threw them the worst, they stood in honesty when it was easy for them to be dishonest. They could have been liars. They could have chosen a devious path, but they choose to stand up no matter the cost. Okay, so they don't play no games. Okay, all right. Their character, their service, their honor, their integrity is key. Okay, so they are one of the strictest things. Like I said, still with your shadow is a piece of cake. besides dealing with the light ancestors, okay? Because they're not for nobody to come up here and fake the funk, or just want to, just like I said, this culture that's out here, they want all the answers, but don't want nothing fun to do with it. They just want it for show, or to perform, or to say they know something, okay? All right? These ancestors have a lot of wisdom, and they walk in truth, okay? These are the ancestors who understand that power without integrity destroys bloodlines. It destroys frequency. It destroys, okay? All right? And the ancestors of light teach us how to become lanterns. Oh my God. I see how the wind blow. This is the stuff I be getting with. I be out here. Oh my God. They teach us how to be that beacon. All right? Okay? Not only for ourselves, not only for our children, not only for our spouses, not only for our family, but for the world. Okay? Not a star, you know, per se, or not a lantern that shines, you know, you like the fire or whatever. Okay? All right? Because the star still shines for itself, right? And the lantern shines for others. We're not doing it for that. They do not play with nobody that want to do it just to be selfish, or do it just so that others can say, oh, look at that. You feel what I'm saying? Okay? They teach responsibility with knowledge and how to balance it. When you walk in the construct and walk with, breathe with the ancestors of light, okay? They teach humility with power, and compassion with wisdom, okay? They operate through inspiration, all right? Okay, you ever be sitting down, and I know I do all the time, and just come up and you're like, oh, you got a project and you didn't start that project yet, you procrastinated, but you sit down and then you get the information on how to do this assignment, or how to do the thing, and you're like, oh, okay. All right, then you do it and you're like, okay, this works. There they go. Okay, and they're not the only ones working in that instance, but that is an example. Okay, sometimes you suddenly know like the right thing to do. Okay, or you feel a pull towards a better choice, or wisdom will arrive at you. And sometimes you're like, oh, I always say I wasn't doing that, but thank you God for my spiritual team. You know, to allow people to know that when I'm doing my work, this is not about me, honey. That whole force with it. I'm not about myself. Okay, that is also how the stream of light works, okay? And the role of the ancestors of light is, like I said, for you to become that beacon. You got to become that beacon, okay? To shine the light on what needs to be shined on, okay? All right? To help when it comes out of the darkness, to pinpoint that thing. You feel what I'm saying? To rise in darkness, to be like, boom. You feel what I'm saying? Their role is illumination, okay? And your role is to embody it, okay? All right? Okay? Not just admire it, but embody it, okay? All right? All right, to sit in that space and soak it all up. So soak up the sun, soak up information, embody it, and move within the construct of that light. So that is their role for the ancestors of light. And baby, they are no one to be played with, okay? They may not come to play patty cake with nobody. You feel what I'm saying? They come to show up and show out, okay? And now, I want to talk about the ancestors of justice. So we talked about shadow, we talked about light. Now we're talking about ancestors of justice, okay? These are the ancestors are fascinating because they care about the balance, right? We ever see the justice scale, and there's two little plates that's on a pole, and then one can tip to the other end, okay? It's not about revenge, it's about balance, okay? Many people confuse justice with punishment, and it's not. Justice is the restoration of the proper order. And like I talked about in one of the first videos that I did, I lost my daughter, okay? Somebody killed her, okay? Somebody unalived her, and I want that person, I want justice for my child, okay? All right? To restore the proper order. You took a life, now you need to pay for that life, as well. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not about walking in a place of revenge, because that man also, and I pray also in my prayers that they find him and that he gets the help that he needs, and be able to change his life around. My daughter lost hers, but baby, you're still here. You need to fess up to it, walk through it, and heal through it. That's my prayer for them, okay? So the ancestors of just don't care about your excuses at all. Yeah, I went slow. I told you the first couple videos, I'm going to give y'all a team on each video, okay, on how these ones work and who you work with and when, okay? So the ancestors do not care about your excuses. They care about your balance, okay? They care about balance. That is most important. They are concerned about the spiritual accountings, okay? Not punishment, okay, but accounts, okay? They ask questions. They ask you questions like, who paid the price? Who carried the burden? Who overlooked? Okay, what? Who was silenced? Who benefited? Who surfaced? Okay, justice ancestors are record keepers of consequence. Okay, they understand that every action creates a ripple, a tear, a frequency. I talked to y'all about that through this whole, all of these videos. Okay, all right, change. Every choice leaves a footprint. Every decision affects the generation that remains, the generation that is to come. Do you understand what I'm saying? So these ancestors teach us how to walk in accountability, not guilt, but accountability, accounting for who you are, okay, what you are, what has been. Understand what I'm saying? And how to alchemize that. They help you understand that healing a bloodline, you have to be honest, okay? And I can't stress that more with walking in this sphere, okay? You have to be honest, okay? Not perfect, but truthful, okay? Honest about everything that you do, everything that you touch, everything that you say, okay? Everything that you are. Facing the facts, okay? All right? You have to walk in accountability, and that is very important in life in general, okay? You have to walk in truth, responsibility, okay? Know that there's consequences, okay? You have to work in integrity, okay? All right? So these ancestors of justice operate whenever something hidden must be addressed. You cannot overlook it. This has to be corrected, okay? All right? All right? Okay? So whenever truth can no longer remain buried, okay? Okay? When it requires your honesty, no excuses, no pretending, you can't bypass it, okay? The justice position here becomes a witness, not a judge. We're not walking in judgment, okay? But a wisdom, okay? A witness, okay? Of honesty. There's no desire to get it because of no excuses. It is what it is. Now let's deal with it. It happened, it occurred. Now let's deal with it, okay? You acknowledge the truth without becoming consumed by resentment of it. Okay? Yes, I was molested. Yes, I was raped. Yes, I went through abuse in this school. Yes, I was rejected. Yes, I was unloved. Yes, I was. But you get down to the nitty-gritty, okay? All right? Okay, so that is the ancestors of justice. Sitting in the justice seat is a beautiful space. When you learn how to sit in the justice seat in life, you operate differently when you meet people. Even driving a car, sometimes you be fussing people out, like, you know better, like stay in your lane, or how you stop like that, you ain't got no blinker on. Even how you react to things and respond to things, it's different, okay? When you are able to work with your ancestors of justice, ancestors of light, shadow ancestors, okay? And sitting in those seats, okay? Because it's not just working with them, okay? But it's able to sit in the seat with them at the table. You understand what I'm saying? Now we're going to talk about the ancestors of memory. Okay, these are the ancestors that again are this whole compilation that I've given you is very fascinating, and I'm so excited to get here at this point. Okay, because the ancestor of memory is the one most sacred. Okay, it is where one of the most sacred powers in existence. Okay, and then we're talking about, you have a lot of people coming up now talking about they wanted us to forget. They've tried to block our mind. They're trying to dupe our brains. They don't want us to remember, because memory is powerful. Okay, all right, it reveals. Okay, people without memory become what? Vulnerable. Okay, you become disconnected. Okay, all right, okay, and a person without memory becomes lost. Right? Okay, a lot of people, they say their brain dead. They don't have this and the other. When that portion of your brain is gone, they say that there's no point to life. Right? Okay. But if you have no memory, you don't know how to fix and do and move and breathe and do the things that you need to do, okay, in your own life. And the ancestor memories are the librarians of your existence, of human existence, of your family existence, okay? They preserve the stories, okay? The songs, the names, the recipes, the languages, okay? I just watched a video the other day of a lady, and they're trying to make a joke about her, but I tapped into her. She is actually telling the truth. She's a starseed, and she has this language. She's speaking this language. She speaks it on, and it's quickening me when she's smoking. And, the world wants to make a replica of her, example, and laugh at her or whatever, you know what I mean? But she tapped into something which was ancient. Her bloodline tapped into something. Her frequency tapped into something that was ancient. It remembered. Okay, that's why people do past life regressions and all kinds of different things like that. It's why meditation is important. Okay, prayer is important. Fasting is important, so that you can fasting alone is important, so that you empty yourself out of all this junk that we eat and we put into our body, so that your body can make room to awaken even the parts of you that need to remember it. The traditions, the ceremonies, the family songs. You ever hear something you ain't heard in so long, and it's like, oh, but it blesses you with a message in it that you needed for that time, okay? Because that's your ancestor memories trying to knock on your door of your consciousness and say, hey, I need you to remember this. I need you to stand firm in this, okay? Or photograph sacred places, okay? They are the librarians of memory, okay, for humanity, for you, for your family line, okay? These ancestors remind us, okay, where we came from, okay? Because if you forget your roots, you eventually will, and not eventually, you will mistake somebody else's story for your own. And we see that a lot of false memory syndrome and different things. I'm a psychologist, so I deal with a lot of different things like that. You understand what I'm saying? So they keep you grounded, okay? Okay, they preserve your identity. They are your record keepers, okay? Your historian, your story holders, the keeper of your names and traditions, and some are your grandmother, grandfathers, so they work on a different kind of spectrum polarity when it comes to the ancestral realm, okay? All right? Some are people who refuse to let history just disappear. You need, and I probably be one of them too, because I'm like, I want to stay here and live until I'm 500 years old. I want to take, my children and my grandchildren and so forth. I want to be the one that they come to that's still here, that can still be active. Like, I don't want to be all frail and can't, move, and they got to transport me everywhere. I want to be able to walk and still do my garden and still be healthy and still be able to feed my family. And when things show up, be able to help them heal, okay? Their children, and help them move successfully through life, okay? Some people, want things to disappear, but it doesn't. you can't keep it buried. I was talking to my aunt about that today, and we were talking about my grandmother, and I had brought something up about somebody else from another person that told me some history, and I went to talk to my grandma. She got mad, you know. My mom was like, yeah, there were folks. She said, I grew up in a time where we went to somebody's house, we sat down, we were quiet, children were seen and not heard. They didn't tell us. There's a lot of things that y'all want to know now, when in this dispensation of unveiling. You know, she don't talk like that, but I'm talking to you guys like that. This is the dispensation of unveiling. Now we don't really have the knowledge to give y'all. We can't really tell y'all too much because the adults didn't let us see and know. You understand what I'm saying? We can only tell you what we got, okay? So the ancestors of memory tapping into the ancestral realm, okay, operate through remembrance. And it's not something that you particularly remember, but that your bloodline remember, that the earth remembers, that the spirit realm remembers. Remember, because you're not just working with your lineage, you are working with the all and the universe and the divine, okay? You may be a doctor, a lawyer, you feel what I'm saying, a healer, a shaman, whatever contracts that you work in, a mother, work with children, and there's some things that were set up in this earth, in this atmosphere, that you have to remember, okay? Especially, they really show up when you're curious about family history. They will bring you signs and things your way that make you ask questions, okay? Or even in life, right? So you're not working with your bloodline. When you're working in the ancestral realm, you never know who's going to show up, okay? Who's your spiritual guide, where they came from, what information they have for you, okay? Whenever you begin to start asking questions or having curiosities or researching, okay? Whenever somebody wants to know where it came from, okay? Your assignment, okay? Anything. The ancestors of memory are the preservation, okay? All right, so they preserve the memory to reveal the memory, work with the ancestors of light, the ancestors of shadow, the ancestors of judgment, so that you are now able to continue and do what you need to do for your assignment. And one of my favorites ancestors are the ancestors of transformation. Why? Because that is the stream that Spirit has always had me in. Transformation, alchemizing. So much in my life, and this is one of the most powerful streams as well, okay, because they are the shifters. Like I said, we are the alchemists, and sometimes you might hear me say we, like I'm already an ancestor, because I am, for somebody. Okay, they are the cycle breakers, okay, the rebels, okay, all right, and again, they don't take no shit either, okay, they are the reformers, the ones who looked at old constructs, okay, and said, no, this won't continue, okay. Transformation ancestors are usually uncomfortable, okay, people, okay, not because they're difficult. Let me explain that to you, okay, because they change things, and some people in human form do not want things to change. They want things to remain the same. So that's when you become the beasts. Human people are stubborn, okay, they want to tug and pull. No, I need it to stay like this, but no, baby, if this needs to change, this is not, okay. So change makes people uncomfortable, right? Okay, these ancestors show you how to evolve, but you have to be open and you have to be willing, okay. So like I said, all of these work together, okay, these ancestors, okay, they show you how to outgrow your old identity, how to shed off some things, okay, your old skin, your old habits, whatever, okay, and how to become somebody, okay, that your ancestors could not become, okay. And some of that they couldn't become because of the construct that they lived in, okay, all right, the time that they lived in, okay, wouldn't restricted them from ever becoming who they're supposed to. Now we see this big freedom of spirituality and being who you are, and being able to, people are now talking about magic more, they're talking about esoteric things and mystical things outwardly, things that before ancestors would have got killed about. They had to hide inside in churches, they had to hide in different places, right now we're able to do freely. So these ancestors of transformation, we say, people say they want, right? They become curious, okay? The ancestor memories that work with them, the ancestor of the light them work with them, the ancestor shadow work with them. Now, the ancestor transformation, okay, is letting you know, okay, you got this knowledge, this can't continue, this has to change in order for you to move forward, okay? Transformation ancestors teach, okay, that your healing is not about returning to who you were, but to evolve, okay? Not that you're actually going to change your whole appearance and stuff like that, but that you perfect, that you grow, okay, who you are, okay, becoming who you were meant to be, okay. These ancestors are the changers, the cycle breakers, the innovators, okay. They are the reformers, okay. These are the ones who refuse to remain, okay, what circumstances in their life told them that they had to become, okay. They don't want to remain in poverty, okay. I'm not going to be this, I'm not going to be that all the rest of my life. I want more, okay. These ancestors of transformation operate through disruption, okay. All right, not to destroy you, not disruption, okay, as far as destruction, but disruption. They create more turning points. They're going to come and shake things up, okay, for you. You may see some signs and some patterns or some things occurring, and you're like, what in the world? But your ancestors, that's why it's important for you to stay in this place, in a position of hearing and listening to the spirit would have you to move, not moving on your own construct. Okay, all right. They challenge old systems. Okay, they force you to evolve. Okay, I just can't say that or enough. Okay, all right. And every family, every construct has transformational ancestors. Okay, all right. All right, okay, and even in your family, I hear this story of, and they may say it bitterly, that one ancestor who changed everything, okay, who took a different road, okay, or who stepped into unfamiliar territory, okay. The role of the transformation ancestor is evolution, okay, it really is, okay, and your role is to walk through it with courage and not to run from it, okay, all right. And here's the kicker. I'm having so much fun. Did you need anything? Oh, in a minute, okay. That's my baby boy, my nephew I'm taking care of. And that's my part of my ancestral assignment, okay? But now we talked about the ancestor, the transformation. We're gonna go to the kicker, and like I said, I love talking about that these groups of ancestors together, because honey, this is the core, okay? We have the ancestors of silence, okay? And this one goes deep, okay, and goes deeper than you even realize, okay, when you start to work with the ancestors of silence, okay? Because silence has many different faces. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's wisdom, survival, it could be grief, trauma, anything, okay? So many things that silence operates in, okay? And these ancestors teach you how to hear what is not, to discern what is not being said, okay? Do you ever walk into a room and feel the tension or something hit you before anyone ever speaks, okay? That's the silence talking. Okay, pick something up, or you kind of feel something. You don't even got to be in the room. You could be sitting at home before you go somewhere, or just thinking about somebody. You call them up and be like, "Hey, what you doing?" That's that silence talking. Okay, all right. Or somebody telling a story. Okay, but you notice certain names never get mentioned. You ever hear that? Okay, that's that silence talking. Okay, you ever notice? And people do it with the living. Okay, so they just ancestrals. People think misconstrued working with the ancestors also about just living life, okay, this kind of the stream that we're in, okay, all right. No, they help you operate and how to connect with people that are still even living, how to break cycles, okay, all right. The things that are avoided, the subjects that are avoided, okay, all right, they come up because the silence is speaking, okay. The ancestors of silence teach discernment, okay, all right. They teach us how to hear what's beneath the words, okay? The emotional currents, the spiritual currents, okay? The ripples, okay? How to hear the story, behind the story, or to read the between the lines, per se, okay? These are the ancestors' voices were never heard. Nobody wanted to listen to them. They thought they was crazy. They thought they was dumb, stuck on dumb particles, but they didn't want to hear. But these are the ones that had the wisdom. And here I am again, because even now, my family's going through some things. And for years, like I said in the last video, I'm saying things to them that I said since I was a child. The spirit gave it to me. My great-grandmother told me who I was, and I didn't walk in it in haughty, because a lot of it, as I grew, I understood more, but I just had this knowledge, just had this wisdom. But you had the people that didn't want to listen to you. They overlooked you. They ignored you. They made things go away. Different stories or different situations. Okay, things disappeared. Okay. Okay. So these ancestors are the ones who carried those stories of the spirit. Okay, the ones who carried the pain, but never spoke about it, okay? The one who took, and also the one that took those secrets to their grave, okay? All right? Lord have mercy. But they realized once they transitioned that, man, that was a mistake, okay? Not to walk in the truth, not to tell or to hide that. Because then they realized when they when they transition, and they sit and they see their life play before them, and they get to understand what went right, what went wrong, what right? They're like, man, so now their assignment is to walk in the ancestors of silence, to say, this got to stop here. I see my fault. I don't want you to walk down the same path. Okay? Definitely. Okay? The ancestors of silence communicate through feelings rather than words, right? You may sense them through your emotional undercurrents, okay? Through family tension. And baby, I got stories. And as I continue to move, because I want to go through childhood trauma and different things, the Spirit had me come out here and I'm going to talk about this, and I want to bring out this ancestors of silence again. And you'll probably hear some videos to come, okay? Because you be in certain situations with family, and there's some tension, and there's something you just can't quite put your finger on, okay? They show up in unspoken subjects, okay? The things everybody knows but nobody wants to discuss, okay? Like your trauma, like being molested, like being starved, or I got a cousin who was deeply abused. People knew about it, but nobody wanted to talk about it. When she started coming out and doing her healing work and started, instead of just healing and not realizing that they're not going to admit to it, it became ugly. And then you hear some people in the corner talking like, yeah, this happened. I remember listening through the walls and such. Well, say it. Don't say it to me. She the one that needs your help. You feel what I'm saying? The ancestors of silence job is revelation. Your job Okay, our job is to listen. Okay, because not everything arrives loud. I said this, whispering. Okay, some people, it's truth is to whispering. Okay, and the ancestors of silence, they will bring it to you in a whisper in those moments that you need it. And your job is to listen and to live listening. Like I told you, my friend used to say, and pay attention, okay, to be open. Okay, and like I said, that the ancestors of shadow, of light, of justice, of memory, of transformation, so forth and so on. So ancestors of whisper, the ancestors of silence. Okay, now we can move into the ancestors of migration. Okay, and these are some of the strongest ancestors within the world, within the ancestral world, within the lineage. Okay, they are the ones who crossed, who learned how to migrate, to move. Okay, they were the nomads. Okay, if you don't know the word nomads and what that means migration. That means to move. That means to go from one place to the next. Okay, they crossed the oceans, the deserts, the borders, the plantations. Okay, the nations, the mountains. Okay, they crossed through generations. Okay, migration ancestors understood what it means to sacrifice. Okay, sometimes you can't, what you're holding on to can't come with you. You got to release it to get to where you're going. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, that this can't come with me. I can't keep carrying this. It's got to go. This is too much. I got to keep going. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so they understood the sacrifice of even moving to leaving. Okay, my daughter did the same thing. She when she went to California, she had so much stuff with her, and some things she had to leave at the side of the road. This is just too much. I can't keep holding on to this. This is not my mission. It's not my mission. It's not my assignment. My assignment is, if I keep holding on to this, I'm not going to get to where I'm supposed to be going. Okay, these ancestors teach you adaptability. Okay, how to adapt. Okay, all right. We have ancestors of transformation. That's when you work with them. Ancestors of truth, you work with them because you're going to need them to walk in the resilience and be in the resourceful and the survival, in the faith that you need to work with the ancestors of migration. Okay, because when you migrate somewhere, you may think you know what you're doing, you may think you know what you're going, but there's some uncertainties that you're going to face. Okay, you don't migrate because you're comfortable. Okay, you migrate because something inside you says it's time to move, it's time to shift, it's time to go, and that could be just migrating from one yard to the next. Okay, I need to get out this store right now. It's time to go back home. You understand what I'm saying? But truthfully, on a bigger scale, these are the ancestors that took the risk that nobody else wanted to take. Okay, all right. Migration ancestors teach you how to move without losing yourself, without losing your mind, without falling in fear and when things happen. And when I moved here to Georgia, Spirit told me to move. Georgia was my place to move since I was like 15. And well, actually, my aunt had moved to Georgia, and I wanted to move to her. I think I was about 9 or 10. I don't know how old I was. She had moved to Georgia, and I wanted to move with her. And I came home, and I started working in the hair business, and we used to do a lot of different hair shows, different things. So it was always my mind. Then I moved to, my first move was to Baltimore when I got married. And Lord have mercy. But I knew Spirit, I had to move. And that was the open door for me at that time. Okay, then I had to go through what I went through in Baltimore for about 8 years, and it was time for me to move. And things started occurring, transformation started happening, and things started occurring, and I knew I had to move. I was going to move to Minnesota, and I said, I'm going to move to North Carolina. Then the person who lived in North Carolina had moved to Minnesota because I was with their ministry. But this prophet came to me. It's like, no, God said your first mind, because Georgia was always my first mind. And when we got here, we ended up homes before. It was so much turmoil. It was crazy. Okay, it was not comfortable. Okay, at all, but I knew that we were in where we needed to be. Okay, you might migrate, like I said, because something inside of you says move. Okay, these migration ancestors will help you. The ancestors of shadow, the ancestors of light, all these ancestors that I named in here will help you. Okay, to move without losing your mind, without losing yourself, without falling into bad habits, giving up, whatever. Okay, they help you to move and how to evolve without forgetting who you are. Okay, they will help you to be able to settle wherever you need to go, okay, and why you need to do that, and why that is part of your journey. They'll help you understand that as well. Okay, so now let's move to the ancestors of reconciliation. Okay, these ancestors are bridge builders. Okay, when you want to reconcile with somebody or something, you know, they are the peacemakers. You know, sometimes the diplomats, community healers. Okay, so say somebody might say I, me, or they, or the ancestors, because we walk in these constructs even now, okay? Because we will be one day future ancestors, and some ancestors don't just walk in have one title. They walk in many different facets because of who they are. That's like many of us just don't have one or two gifts. Sometimes we got it all. You understand what I'm saying? But how to unlocking that is the key to working with the spiritual realm, okay? The ancestors of reconciliation, like I said, were their family restorers, okay? It was important to them. The family stayed together, okay? They are the ones that understood what everybody missed, okay? Broken relationships, okay? Broken communities, okay? And broken communities, what? create a ripple effect. Broken relationship, create a ripple effect. Broken nation, communities, right? Okay, they understood all of that. Okay, the reconciliation ancestors teach the art of repairing a thing. Okay, and it could be just in your home right now. What needs to be repaired just with you and your children. Okay, not pretending. Okay, not walking in denial. Okay, not avoiding it, but how to see it. Okay, put your finger on it, taste it, smell it, touch it, and how to repair it. Ancestors will ask you certain questions like, can you heal without erasing the truth? It happened. Can we face it? Can you find healing in it? That is the beautiful. I got a situation, and I won't do that because it's my son's business, but in a situation like that. And we were able to I was able to walk them through that. Not years down the line, but right then and there. Okay, this happened. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. Let's heal through it. Let me help you get from this point to that point. Okay, ancestors will also ask you, can you forgive without abandoning having wisdom? Okay, forgive, but don't forget. And Tupac said it the best. Forgive, but don't forget, girl. Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Keep your eyes forward. Keep your chin. Keep your back straight. Okay? And then they will ask you, can you restore without losing your boundaries? Okay? Here's that balance, that justice again. Okay? Okay? That is the medicine that the ancestors of reconciliation carry. Okay? You can love them, but you don't have to be around them. You can show compassion, love, joy, and be still do what you need, but you don't got it. I don't got to sit at your table to do it either. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that having that wisdom. Okay, or you can just show up, not showing up to spite somebody, or on their face like that. I'm still showing up, but you can still show up and love, and you, because you're healed, you can help heal. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. These ancestors also moved. Okay, they also crossed oceans and borders and rivers and deserts. Okay, they crossed impossible circumstances as well. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? Just like the migration ancestors, they understood sacrifice. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, forgiveness is most reconciliation. Forgiveness, okay, is one of the most misunderstood spiritual technologies on the face of the earth, and this is what keeps a lot of people stuck. Okay, people think forgiveness is for the person that hurt you, and most of the time, the forgiveness, okay, is for the person carrying the wound. Okay, that's why in my book, Recovering Your Journey, I always tell people, even when I'm dealing with them on a spiritual level, you're not always going to get the answers that you need from that person. Okay, because everybody has their own journey. Everybody ain't working through this like you working through it. So you want answers, and you want people to say and take accountability. That's not going to take accountability, but the healing is for you. You're the one that's carrying the wound, and you're the one that's the wound is stopping. And people over there eating cake, and they act like their wound don't matter. When it do matter, at the end of the night, they're tormented. They got their own stuff, but it's you that need to shift to forgiveness and reconciliation. And these ancestors teach you how to move through that. Okay, they teach you how to release the emotional change and bondages that are on you. You know, I went through some things with my mom my whole life. And me and her finally talked a little bit, and I kind of got to say to her, but this is why I've been able to deal with you all these years. Because I understood, just she was telling me about the things that she was wounded with and why she operated a certain way. I was like, oh, I know. You feel me? Resentment ties people to old pain. Okay, and it's the time and it's dispensation of unveiling, and we need to walk in forgiveness, how to heal. Okay, our family, see what's going on in the world with these children, with these families, and it's just crazy. Okay, so the ancestors of forgiveness and reconciliation, okay, understand that wound, okay, becomes your identity. Okay, all right, if you let it, okay, if you let it stay, if you're unhealed for too long, it just becomes who you are. You continue to do the destructive things that you've been doing. You understand what I'm saying? And their lesson to you will be freedom. Okay, now that you forget it, nobody saying sweep it under the rug, act like it never happened. It happened. But now your test becomes your testimony. Now what you've been through, you're able to help somebody else, but from a healed state. Okay, these ancestors are the peacemakers, the bridge builders, like I said, the restorers, the healers. Okay, the shamans. Okay, if you're at this stage, then that's what you are. You're a spiritual practitioner already, or you're a spiritual practitioner seeking to be healed, to move. Okay, all right. Okay, they operate. These ancestors operate whenever a healing conversation needs to happen. Okay, have you ever had a conversation with somebody that's going through something, and your goal is to encourage them, to help them, and then you ended up helping yourself as well? You're like, oh, I don't eat that for myself. I need to start eating that for myself. I gave it to somebody else. You feel what I'm saying? Okay. They teach the descendants how. They can teach you how to bring opposing sides together. Okay, how to bridge the gap. Okay, how to listen, how to understand, how to restore the balance, the harmony. Okay, without abandoning, without disregarding the truth or the facts. Okay, all right. Reconciliation. You can't pretend that. I mean, I'm not fake. Okay, at all. I don't like you. I don't like you. Okay. It is not about walking in reconciliation. It's not walking about acting like it never happened. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, all right. It is healing the conflict, the damage of it. Okay, that is their medicine. Okay, definitely. Okay, and then we like I said, I put ancestors of reconciliation and forgiveness together because they work together on so many different spheres. So you hear me say reconciliation and forgiveness. Okay. And forgiveness doesn't mean approval. Doesn't mean I approved of what you are, gave you permission, or I'm forgetting, right? Okay, okay. It means that I'm releasing the authority that you have over me, or this wound that have over me, okay, or this trauma has over me, or that circumstance has over me, or my wound, or or over my future. Okay, you are releasing the authority of that entity that has tried to keep you down. Okay, you no longer have power over me. Okay, that's what walking in true forgiveness means. Okay, I'm able to allow bygones to be bygones. Okay, we can agree to disagree. Okay, the ancestors of forgiveness alone teach you, like I said, reconciliation and forgiveness, emotional freedom. Okay, because they understood. Okay, something that many people just don't understand, and that is carrying resentment. It's often carrying the heaviest burden. Okay, and when you carry that heavy burden, it affects your life. Everything that you do affects your health. Okay, all right, so. Their job is to teach you liberation, freedom, and your job is to learn how to release that thing. Okay. Now we're going to go into the ancestors of courage, and these are one of my favorite ones. They carried fear and they moved from it. Okay. Okay. These are the ones that woke up. Okay. And said, hey, I gotta get through this. If I don't get through this, I'm not gonna get through my next. Okay. So they had to have fearlessness. Okay. They're the ones that said no. Okay, all right. Many people just allot courage to fearlessness. Okay, but courage is much more than that. Okay, and I want everybody to understand that. Okay, it means your purpose becomes bigger than that thing that tried to hold you back, or that place that door that you were afraid to walk through. Okay, or that person that or that bully. Okay, that's in your life. Okay, these are our ancestors who stood up, spoke up, protected, resisted, survived, and they persisted, baby. Okay, that strength, that courage that we need to keep going. Okay, they helped me even with my ancestors of courage. Helped me, and I know my ancestors by name. You'll begin to know them by name, face, and who they are. You know how they show up to you, right? So that's not for everybody. Okay, so I don't want you just going in like, oh, I didn't get a name, I didn't get it. Well, just don't focus on that. Okay, because the longer you're in it, the more you'll win it. Okay, and the more you'll grow, and the more things are revealed to you. Okay, but even losing my daughter. Okay, there were some areas that I was afraid to. Well, I didn't even want to be a parent anymore. I got 4 other children here. I was like, I don't want to mess. I don't want to lose anybody else. You know, so many things that I went through that they helped me through. Okay, these ancestors teach you how to move through uncertainty. Okay, how to trust yourself, how to trust life. Okay, how to keep walking when you can't even see what's in front of you. Okay, these are the ones who stood up. Okay, when trying to stand up for something that would kill them, they knew harm would take their life. Okay, the ones who protected, okay, and resisted and endured. Okay, these are the ones, the ancestors who kept moving. Do you know any of them? Okay, have you seen any of them? You know, somebody that passed on that you may knew, or maybe, like I said, somebody that you don't even know or heard of, or just an ancestor of a territory or surrounding your land. Okay, that had to walk in courage. You know, it might be civil rights, it might be something you're standing up for on your job, or something like that you need that work with the ancestors of courage. Okay, they operate whenever life demands you to act, your actions. Okay, not your confidence, but the action needs to take place. Okay, and people think courage means not to be afraid. Baby, you know, you can have courage and still be. Got that big person coming, you know, the big bully coming in front of you. You can see she's like 500 pounds and you only a good 110. It don't mean that your hands don't get palmy, but you still persist on, I'm gonna fight you. My mama said the biggest they are, the hardest they fall. So guess what? I ain't backing down. Okay. So courage means to move despite your fear. Okay. So the ancestors of courage is the activation. They teach you to activate, and your assignment is to move on the activation. Okay, now we go into the ancestors of creativity. Okay, and again, this is one of my favorite streams because creativity is divine intelligence. Okay, and I am divine intelligence. You are divine intelligence. We are the trees, the nature. I love it. Okay, these ancestors of creativity or the ancestors who understood that creation is sacred. Every song, every poem, every hairdo that you thought of, you know, I make these diadems, you know what I mean? Every invention, every meal that you create, you know, is sacred. Okay, every garment, dance, art, okay, all of that. Okay, every invention. Okay, we have to understand that these things first was invisible, right? We have a pot, right? Or car, okay, before they was on feet, right? Then they figured out how to make a buggy, then a wheels and all kinds of things like that. They're invisible. They didn't have these things, but somebody was creative enough to, you know, who would have known to turn the coffee bean into coffee, right? Things like that, you know what I mean? Things that was first existed in invisible, okay? Creativity ancestors teach you how to become channels, living channels to where creativeness, for even if I talk about also creativeness of worship, of doing spiritual practices, ceremonies, you know, just being creative, knowing what to do, when to do it, okay? Because a lot of my ceremonies that I do are created and inspired by the divine, by feeling, by being able to tap in, okay? These creative ancestors teach you how to receive, sitting with them, you learn how to receive ideas, how to trust your inspiration as well, okay? And how to bring the spirit into it all, okay? And how to flow, okay? These ancestors understood that your imagination is not something to be ashamed of, okay? You're not living in a fantasy. I know some people may look at you like, oh, you got a pipe dream. No, my dream is not a pipe dream. My dream will come to fruition. It may not be today or tomorrow, but I'm not going to give up my hopes and my aspirations. I'm not going to keep working. What if the Wright brothers stopped working on an airplane? We wouldn't have what we have today. You feel what I'm saying? They want you to know, your ancestors of creativity want you to know that your possibility, okay? It is possible, okay? All right? It's waiting, okay, for you, okay? So these ancestors were the ancestors of creativity, have been people who were artists and musicians and storytellers and writers and dancers and builders and inventors and dreamers, okay? Speakers, creativity, creators of something, you know what I mean? The ones that stood up and said some things, okay? They created not only things like this, but movements, okay? Books, writers, you know what I mean? Okay? The creativity ancestors understood that creation is one of the base spirit enters into this realm. Okay, what is invisible, what as above, so below, as within, so without. How it enters this realm is through a living vessel, a living stream. Okay, a recipe, a design, thoughts. Okay, when it started as a thought, it started as the invisible, it's now become visible. Okay, the creative ancestors operate through your imagination. So you don't. There's pills out here to say, hey, she got an imagination, she's imaginative, so we need to give her pills to stop her. They want you to, so we have ancestral memory, right? Ancestral shadow, ancestral life, so far in what I'm speaking about. They want you to forget. They want you to have no vision. They want you to have no inspiration. Okay, the world wants you to not be innovative. Okay, all right. But the ancestors of light is telling you, ancestors of creativity is telling you that your fantasy, your imagination is divine. It is sacred. Okay, their assignment is to teach you the expression, how to express it, and your assignment is to manifest, to have it manifest. You got some people sitting on a couch right now waiting for something to manifest when their ancestors had already told them how to do it, but they're waiting. You ever see that? You ever see that meme with the person sitting there and they're like with the skeleton and they still waiting on something? That's what they're doing. So, you know, whatever it is that your hopes and your aspirations and your dreams are, do it. That is the spirit trying to bring it. It's never been done before. Okay? Or maybe it has been done before, but not the way that you want to do it. You feel what I'm saying? Okay? And now I want to talk about, and I think this is the last one, the ancestors of your spiritual calling. Many people are going on this journey of trying to find out who they are. Many people are touching things that they have no business touching. Okay? All right? So if we go through this whole list that I've given you, okay, the ancestors of your spiritual calling, okay, these are the ancestors are not about being religious. Okay? Okay, the ancestors are often prophets, mystics, teachers, shamans, priestess, okay, priest, okay, wisdom keepers, visionaries, spiritual servants, okay? All right, some of them had to hide within spiritual religious constructs, okay? But these are, again, the bridge walkers, okay? Tapping into the spiritual. And I went into talking about, I'm going to bring that up some more too. As I get all this stuff out here, then I'll be able to talk more. But I'm trying to put all these videos in a file so that you can go to those videos, and as I talk more you can understand more as well. Okay, the bridge walkers, okay, these are the ones that spent their life asking the deeper questions. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I? Okay, what is the truth? What is this purpose? Is this real? Okay, what serves humanity? God, what do you want for me to do? Where do I need to go? How do I do this if I don't have this? You feel what I'm saying? These ancestors teach you how to listen to the soul, not just your soul, but the soul around you. Okay, you may have children. You need to understand who they are. Okay, so these ancestors are helping you so that you know who they are, who you're God's supposed to be stored over as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so solely the spiritual ancestors are for you, and as you grow more, then you know it spreads out. So it's about the soul. Okay, all right. Okay, because every calling that you have, first you have to learn to listen. Okay, for anybody that has worked any kind of practice, okay, like I'm a prophet, I'm a healer, I'm a teacher, I'm a priestess, I'm a guide, okay, We all had to start with listening. And that's what I talk about when in my school. The first thing that I bring people into is how to sit in silence, how to listen. Okay? All right? Okay? These ancestors are not trying to make you famous. Okay? So some people, my cousin just sent me something of some girl who has this river ceremony and it's become popular. But guess what? It's the same cousin that called me up when her son passed away and I tried to help her. But they didn't want to listen. Some people look at your life and just say, oh, she didn't travel to Dubai, or she didn't travel to India, or she didn't travel to Soviet Union, to sit with the monks. Like, I'm not trying to be famous. I know who I am. I know that there's a lot of people that traveled abroad and then sat with monks and spiritual leaders. Ain't got it, honey. They just had the money to get there. Okay? So don't be duped. Okay? And yeah, they got the little hand motions and you feeling something based on the vibration that is raised within, like people in church. Everybody, music starts playing, people start shouting, people start screaming. It's right because what's in them is rattled. Okay? And they become to experience something based on what is in the atmosphere. Okay? But we'll leave out the same door that they came into after having that good old and go right back to shit. Okay? So these ancestors are not trying to make you famous. They just want to make sure you're aligned with who you are, what you are, how you are, all the questions that you have, all the answers that you need. Okay? All right? That is the attention, alignments. Okay, it ain't about all these videos people's making or trying to be out here and none of that. Okay, I'll put it on here if you want to donate, you can. But baby, I'm not waiting for nobody to donate to pay my bills. I gotta pay my bills regardless. So if you want to donate, if you feel that the donation is the equivalent exchange, okay, of information, you were able to learn something more and you felt it valuable enough to say, here, I want to donate. I want to sow into that knowledge. I want to sow into that wisdom. I want to sow into that gift that is on your ear. Okay, Spirit has not told me to be out here charging people for anything. I am a psychologist, so yes, some things for that. But other than that, no. I'm out here just to be an elder and to teach. Okay, I know who I am, and in order for you to know who you are, you need to sit in a place and listen. Be still. Okay, learn, read, listen. Okay, breathe, listen. Okay. These are the ancestors that carried the closest relationship. Infants, like my grandmother, Rebecca, my dad's father's mom. That's how close. So I'll tell you about my greats because I didn't get to know her naturally, but I got to know her spiritually. But all throughout my life, I heard about this fantastic woman who had these gifts. She was the Marie Laveau of my family. Okay, and then you got some people that point you remind me of her. You're going to be the grandma. You're going to be just like great grandma. And I didn't quite get it, and some people made it seem bad and I see why, because some people didn't accept her for who she was. Okay, she was a root worker. She got rid of people got roots put on them. She removed them. You know what I mean? And she did some roots to somebody else. Who knows? Who cares? But there's a reason for everything. Okay, but out of my family line, I am the only one. Yeah. That is carrying the generations from my grandmother. I'm the only one from my mother's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, and this part of the family that is walking in where I'm supposed to be. That is putting on the mantle that I'm supposed to be, because I've always had to listen to spirit from the day one. From born, my mom tells me that the person who spoke to her about me, when she was carrying me, said, "Oh, she's gonna be born activated." And let me tell you, I was born activated. There's things that I do and have done that I've written down in my grimoires and my journals that I didn't even know it was a thing, right? So last year I started doing this thing and putting out my beginning bars and going on it and seeing something like, oh, thanks, spirit. Like, not that I didn't trust spirit. It's just like, let me see if people or other people in this knowledge, sometimes spirit will give me something. I'll be like, spirit, let me look this up. And I'm like, oh, okay, you didn't even know it. Okay, all right, okay. So these ancestors, the ancestors of spiritual calling, have walked so close with the spirit realm. Okay, all right. They are concerned with your purpose, with your alignment, with who you are. Okay, with your service. The ancestors of the spiritual calling operate through dreams, intuition, synchronicities, knowing. Okay, inner knowing. Okay, spiritual awakening. Okay, their role for you, okay, is guidance. Okay, you are responsible, okay, for what happens next, for how you grow spiritually. I mean, you got people on here flipping tarot cards and saying that they can tap into this and the other, but don't have no ground to land on if they were to fall. Okay, they teach you the responsibility, okay, of how to grow and mature spiritually the right way. Okay. And please hear me. The greatest mistake, please listen. The greatest mistake that you will make, that people will make, is learning about their ancestors. Okay? It's trying to escape the earth. Okay? So when learning about all the stuff, they try to escape. Okay? The ancestors are not asking you ever in this life to abandon this world. Okay? They are asking you to become fully present within it so that you can do what you need to do. okay? So that you can become who you're supposed to become, okay? And the way you stay connected to the ancestral realm is not by living in the clouds, okay? Not by living in false fantasies and false illusions, okay? It is by integrity, okay? By learning to listen. It's by doing your healing, by walking in wisdom, okay? All right? Okay, it's getting all tied up, okay? Conscious living, okay? Your feet must remain planted on this earth. You are anchored between the earth and the spiritual realm. And these ancestors of every calling is trying to teach you how to do that. So that you can be who you are and not be operating outside of who you are. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? That is the bridge. Okay? That you need to walk in. Okay? All right? You receive what's from the past. You apply it to your present. Okay? You create a future. Okay? That is how these realms remain connected. Okay? All right? All right? You're entering the age where hidden histories are surfacing. Okay? And your spiritual ancestors need you to rise up, need you to be still enough, need you to hear enough, need you not to be worried about what, not to be selfish. Okay? Not to be out here just trying to say I'm this and say I'm that just for other people, but to really do what you need to do. Okay? Out here. Okay? All right? So what needs to be remembered will be remembered. Okay? And then we can actually be effective. Okay? So your gifts and your callings and your power and your authority is not ever is not buried, okay? But it is awoke. You are operating awoke, okay? All right? That is pretty simple. And it's pretty easy. And further on, like I said, after I get through all of these 80, I'm going to come in here and we're going to do practices and we're going to talk about how to move and ask and speak to our ancestors. But maybe the first thing that it comes with is a lifestyle of living. Okay, a lifestyle of peace, a lifestyle of joy, a lifestyle of being open to the flow, touching nature, touching the spiritual realm, staying in prayer, meditation, okay, fasting, okay, learning, reading a book, open up a book. Don't just be on here watching people's videos and thinking. You got to do your research, do your own seeking, okay, all right, okay, because this time's coming up. Y'all, we are going to wake up. The artists, the healers, the teachers, okay, your gifts, okay, it's all the bridge builders. Okay, many people thought they were searching for the ancestors or discovering something. Okay, the ancestors have been preparing, okay, the path for you all along. They've been working with you. I'm just giving them names for you. Okay, they've been teaching you. You just didn't know who it was. Okay, now you do. Me coming out here telling you how this thing is orchestrated, this symphony of life. Okay, all right. Okay, they've been walking by your side. Okay, all right. It is really important that you get this, that you understand it. Okay? All right? So the ancestors of shadow teach you what needs healing. The ancestors of light teach you what needs to be embodied. Okay? Justice teaches you the balance. Okay? Memory preserves. Transformation, change. Okay? Silence, hearing. Okay? I'm going to pull my eyelash off. Pull the other one off. Migration, moving. See, something need to change, honey. Reconciliation, forgiveness. What needs to be repaired. Okay? Forgiveness, how to release, right? We learned about courage. Okay, what do you need to face? Creativity. Okay, what is creating? Okay, spiritual calling, what you need to become. Okay, and somewhere in the middle of all of those streams stands you, us, the bridge, the walking altar. Okay, we are the next unfinished chapter. We are the living streams. Okay, we are the future ancestors in training. Okay, all right. So I hope that you got a lot out of this today. Okay, so that you can flow into your next, into who you are becoming. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. All right, grace and peace. Return this move. Okay, if anybody needs me, my information is at the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'll be looking for your emails, looking for you to reach out to me, and I can help you further along on how to connect with your ancestors. I want to help people one-on-one. It's fine for me to be out here doing these videos, but I like to work with people one-on-one. Okay, because everybody is different. Everybody has their own journey. Everything. Everything is your own little recipe. Okay? All right? So get with me if you need to. And that's info.huakasen@yahoo.com. Okay? Grace and peace.